It is Tuesday, all you minties. That's right. It's time to take an advanced look at the collected editions from Marvel Comics coming out this week. So, stay tuned. Now, before getting started, I do want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of all of these books. Every one of these books is due out in the direct market or book market on May 2nd or 3rd, depending on where you get your books. So we're looking at some new trade paperbacks, an Epic Collection, and then the launch of the Modern Epic Collection line. And of course, a couple Mighty Marvel Masterworks. As always, I put timestamps in the description of the video in case you want to jump around or you're only interested in some things or you don't want to know any spoilers. And speaking of spoilers, I always like to tell people I don't really like spoiling things no matter how old the stories are. However, to talk about Dark Web, I do have to talk just a little bit about the setup and who exactly the main players are, and that might spoil things from Zeb Wells' run on Spider-Man Beyond, or maybe a little bit of Nick Spencer's run on Spider-Man and what's going on with the mutants during the the Dawn of X era. So just in case, I do put timestamps in the description of the video if you don't want to know any kind of spoilers. You want to go into Dark Web completely blind. I respect that. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the Mighty Marvel Masterworks. So kicking off the week is the Avengers Mighty Marvel Masterworks Volume 3, Among Us Walks a Goliath. So you have the Leonardo Romero cover right here, which is the standard cover. Then you have I think that's Jack Kirby with maybe some John Romita. I mean, it looks definitely like Jack Kirby's face and hands, but it looks like finishes by John Romita. And then the spines, how different they look. This being the direct market, this being the standard edition. And then the backs are even different. This letting you know that the direct market is limited to how many copies they print of it. And it is volume 3 if you're collecting all of the Mighty Marvel Masterworks. Everything else on the inside is identical. So this collects issues 21 through 30 of Avengers. Stan Lee and Don Heck are the main creators behind this. And then here's all your inkers and letterers. And the table of contents right here, where you're going to find each of these books. Kicking it off with Power Man teaming up with the Enchantress right here. Since Wonder Man failed, maybe Power Man can go in there and kick the crap out of the Avengers. So this collection right here is some of the early years when they were still trying to figure out exactly what type of book the Avengers is going to be. By now you do have Cap's team of Scarlet Witch, Hawkeye, and Quicksilver, but you are going to get some new members, and that's one of the things about the Avengers that I always enjoyed, is that the Avengers are kind of a revolving door, like just keep rotating characters around. You have the return of Kang, this time around with a new mission that involves this particular lady right here. And you also have Doctor Doom. I guess he's tired of fighting the Fantastic Four, so he comes in and tries to take out the Avengers. You have Atuma right here in this particular issue. And I'm sure my daughters and I will get around to doing this. We're working on the Black Panther book, and some of you all know I ended up with COVID, so we had to postpone filming because we have to be together in the same room. But now that I'm over it, and well, at least getting over the symptoms, I can go ahead and start recording those again, because I really do miss doing the family reviews. You have the return of Giant Man. This time around, he's going to be calling himself Goliath. Now he's not alone. You also have the first appearance right here of the Collector, and the Sons of the Serpent, and of course the Swordsman right here. So this book right here retails for $15.99. It doesn't really have that many extras. It's just a couple, just one extra. The t-shirt, which, man, if you were rocking that in 1965, dude, you were one of the hippest cats around. I hope I used that term right, from 1965. I assume I did. Maybe that's from the 50s. Anyway, the book has 218 pages, retailing for $15.99. And that is Avengers Volume 3, Among Us Walks a Goliath. The book that reminded me, hey, I need to finish out Mandalorian Season 3. I forgot. I've only watched like half the episodes. This is the Mandalorian Season 1 Part 2. It is a straight-up adaptation. And I don't know if I said this the first time, but they really got the right guy to draw it, and that is Georges Genti. To me, I think he really captures the way the actors look. Not that the Mandalorian has his helmet, off or anything. Or does he? Well, maybe if you haven't seen the series. You can find out by reading the comic. I actually had a friend that didn't see like any of the movies or TV shows, but he loved collecting the adaptations of the TV shows or movies. So let me know if you're one of those. If you've never seen The Mandalorian, but you're buying the adaptations because you just have to have every Star Wars comic, I would love to know that. So this collects issues of The Mandalorian 5 through 8. And again, it's an adaptation of this character named Mando who's going around and protecting this little baby Grogu right here. There's a team up here with other bounty hunters, and you can see exactly how he interacts with those characters. And again, it almost feels like a shot for shot sometimes. And then there are moments that you see that Rodney Barnes, the writer, actually takes liberties with. There is a cover that I want to show. So the covers are here in between each of the chapters. But that was the Steve McNiven cover. That right there is such a badass cover. That is by Patrick Gleason, or at least it looks like him. Let's see. Yes. Well, it says Gleason, so I assume it's him. That is such an awesome cover. I wish they had used that for the main cover. No offense to this one. It's cute, right? Who doesn't want a Grogu right there? That's adorable. But yes, this is a straight up adaptation. There's nothing really new adding to this particular story, and I can't flip to the back here because that kind of reveals a couple of big spoilers. So you do see a couple of characters show up here that you've seen in the show, like Cara Dune and Moff Gideon and Greef Karga, just to name a few of the characters. And they act just like their TV show counterpart. All the way in the back is where you're going to find the variant covers. Most of these are in thumbnail, but there is one that is a splash page, and then other Star Wars books that are available. Retailing for $17.99. The book has 136 pages. Star Wars The High Republic Season 2, Volume 1, Balance of the Force. Now, you're going to notice something that nowhere on the spine or nowhere on the cover does it say Season 2. It just says Phase 2 right here in very small letters. So that's something to keep an eye out whenever you're looking at the... Because I know most bookstores, most comic book stores have their comics in bookshelves like this instead of showing you the cover. So if you look at the very bottom, it'll say Phase 2. So yes, this is the Season 2 of The High Republic. Interesting enough, this takes place 150 years before the event of The High Republic Phase 1. So instead of moving forward, they're moving back and introducing us to new characters. Some of the settings are very similar or the same. They kind of give you a little bit of the backup story. I do love this right here. The Star Wars timeline is just awesome. High Republic, Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, New Republic, and Rise of the First Order. And of course, where each of the movies and TV shows fall in. Love that they're doing that. So this right here introduces us to a new Jedi who is having these flashbacks in a nightmare kind of way. And this is Vildar Mak. And Vildar Mak has been sent to the holy city of Jedi. So this is where he gets to meet up with... Just look at that. That's an awesome shot. I love that. I love the look and the angle and also the curvature right here. So you know immediately that planet is not flat. But he meets a Padawan here. This is Maddie, or she goes by Maddie. Her name is Mathea Cathly. So right here is pretty much where his mission takes him. There's something going on here that the Jedi Order sent him to find out what exactly is happening. So it is a really interesting place. I'll talk a little bit about Jedha first. It's like a place where kind of reminds me a little bit of the city planet in the Star Wars comics or in the movies, that it just seems like there's a lot of philosophies and religious beliefs in here and a lot of different cultures that have come together, and it's all about spiritual guidance. And again, he's one that's having these flashbacks or memories really through some dream sequences. But then they kind of start messing with him as he's just standing there awake. He sees the person responsible for something horrible happening in his past. Now, it does have a murder mystery here, exactly what's going on. And the main Jedi characters here get caught in all of this conspiracy that's happening. And what exactly is going on? There's a couple of twists and turns. Written by Cavan Scott, so he is the main writer on this. And you also have artwork in here from Ario Anindito and Mark Morales, Andrea Brocardo. There is a backup story. Yeah, the Peace and Unity right here that introduces us to another character that will play a bigger part in the story to come. Now, this particular trade paperback has 118 pages. Let's look at the extras in the back. So you do have some variant covers back here. Now, some of the variant covers are on the opposite page of the main covers, but some are in the back here, like from issue number 5. And yeah, I am censoring that final page so no one gets spoiled. And then you have some more ads. The book retails for $16.99, and it has 118 pages. And that is Star Wars: The High Republic, Phase 2, Balance of the Force. Wakanda. Just Wakanda. This is a pretty interesting collection. It reads like an anthology, but it does collect Wakanda 1 through 5. $17.99 is the retail price of this. And each one is written and drawn by different creators. One thing I will say is that I don't think I would use this as an entry point to the world of Wakanda. I mean, if you don't mind spoilers at all, and you're just familiar with the characters from the movies, then probably this would be okay. But if you wanting to check out some of the Black Panther comic runs, the classic stuff, whether it's the Don McGregor stuff, the Jack Kirby stuff, or the Christopher Priest stuff, and then later on Reggie Hudlin and Ta-Nehisi Coates, this does have some spoilers in here, mainly for the John Ridley stuff, which was the last run of Black Panther. But it does feature the character of Shuri in the first issue right here, and having to prove herself that she could become the Black Panther. Most of these take place at different times during the world of Wakanda, including one during the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. She does fight the Rhino right there. The second story, issue number 2, is about M'Baku, the character that was formerly known as Man-Ape. And if you read this one, and you hadn't read Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, this ruins the third act of Ta-Nehisi Coates, the intergalactic empire of Wakanda, because it tells you exactly what it is, and there's a big mystery as to the empire of Wakanda and why it's in space and what exactly is going on. This kind of tells you exactly what was going on and who this character is. Then we move over to Killmonger. Now, this story right here takes place in the past when Killmonger was younger. It does have the character of Ulysses Klaue, and again, it kind of retcons some of the stuff that we've seen previously. This one right here, I think, is the one that you would benefit by reading John Ridley's run, and this is the character of Tosin. And it takes place before the end of John Ridley's run on Black Panther. And it's a brand new character that he created, and he wanted the character to play a big important part. Whether he still plays a big important part in Ewing's run, I don't know. They may still use him. The fifth and final story is about Okoye right here. Now, this also collects the backup stories, and I said this is the fifth story, and it just features her. And there's actually another story that is really cool that was in the backup of all of these issues, and that is the history of the Black Panther. So in chronological order, it shows exactly who has donned the outfit of the Black Panther, who was the king of Wakanda at one time, and who has ruled over Wakanda with the Black Panther as its powers. And it does it in a pretty unique way. I like the way it almost feels like a children's story because of the way it's being told. But it does go through the different, even the retcons that some of the writers have taken liberties with, whether it's Reggie Hudlin or Christopher Priest. But I think it does a really good job of reintroducing you to the character of Black Panther. So if you're not familiar with the character of Black Panther, this does a good job. Unfortunately, I can't say, to get this just for the history of Black Panther, because all of this will end up spoiling other storylines. So it's solid. If you're caught up, this is going to be a great, companion to John Ridley's run on Black Panther. But if you're not caught up, this might ruin some of the things that have happened previously. So this book retails for $17.99, and it has 136 pages. In the back, cannot believe I almost forgot to mention this, is the homework. And that is the annotations, where the history of the Black Panther stories, where they originally came from. For example, this right here came from Black Panther number 15 from 1979. There's stories borrowed from Captain America in here, from Eternals. So they really did their homework writing that particular little one shot, which I guess are backup stories. I love that they did that. It's a great way to catch you up with the character, and here's some of the variant covers and thumbnails, and one in a splash page. I almost have to talk about this book with Dark Web. So just in case you haven't been reading Venom by Al Ewing and Ram V, this is volume 3, and just in case you haven't opened any of those up and you don't want to know anything about it, I am going to be talking about some minor spoilers as to what's happened previously without going into detail as to how and why. But this is volume 3, Dark Web. Now, everything in here is not collected in here, so you're still getting a couple of extra issues. This is something that Marvel has done in case you have no interest in Dark Web and you just want to read Venom. So this is volume 3, collecting issues 11 through 15. It's still Ram V and it's still Al Ewing with Brian Hitch drawing the stories. However, this time around, Ram V is writing issues 11 and 12 and 15, and Al Ewing is doing 13 through 14 and issue number 16. So here we have, man, this is so hard to talk about with what details that's happened in the previous 2 volumes, because it is a big mystery as to where Eddie Brock is. You know, him and Dylan have been separated since the beginning of this run, and you don't know if he's in space, you don't know if he's in an alternate dimension, you don't know if he's in the future, but somehow they're separated. What's going on with the symbiote? And then you have the creation of Bedlam and coming after Dylan. So it's interesting to see how the story is about to come together, because I don't know if it was in the works or if it was planned for the characters to come back together through Dark Web, but in a way they do come together, and it's all because of the Dark Web storyline, which I'll get to here in a little bit. And again, it's a very hard topic to talk about, because if you haven't read the first 2 volumes, then you're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Hell, I'm sitting here wondering what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's hard to do these overviews without going into spoiler territory. So maybe put it on mute and just look at this beautiful artwork. But yes, somebody is about to show up here and offer Venom a chance to go and be with his son and save his son. And we'll talk a little bit about that in Dark Web. So if you want to know who that is and what exactly Dark Web is after I show the spines, by all means, check out the Dark Web story. Just give a synopsis with a little bit of spoilers as the setup. But I think for the most part, this is all I wanted to show. I didn't want to spoil exactly who is behind Dark Web or what exactly is going on. But there's all kinds of symbiotes. So if you're a fan of that whole symbiote, and the more symbiote, the better, you're going to enjoy this. All the way in the back are the variant covers. Oh, man, that is such a badass cover. And so is that right there. John Tyler Christopher. He's the one that does the toy covers, but he's a phenomenal artist. There's some Ryan Stegman variants, and some are thumbnails, and then some are splash pages right here, including this one where he's fighting a rat. And this is volume 2 right there, with volume 1 right here. This book retails for $19.99, and it has 144 pages. It has come to be that time of the video where I remind people to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and ring that bell for notifications. All that helps with our YouTube algorithm and our channel keep growing. And here's all the spines of the books coming out this week and how they will look on your shelf. Well, they'll look like that. No, the light. You'll get the idea. Unless you store your books like this. And who the heck am I to judge? Alright, let's continue with the overviews. Dark Web. As I mentioned at the intro that I would be having to talk about some spoilers in this one, mainly the setup, who the key players are, and kind of how all this came to be. So just be warned, a little bit of spoilers, but nothing huge as to how exactly it happened or what the ramifications are or what happens through this. Alright, so let's open it up. So here we go, Dark Web. Free comic book day, Spider-Man Venom is what's collected in here. You also have Spider-Man 15 through 18, Venom 14 through 15, Dark Web 1 through 3, that's X-Men Dark Web, sorry, Miss Marvel Dark Web 1 and 2, the Dark Web finale, and then Dark Web number 1. This is wonderful right here. they give you kind of the reading order, how you can go about it. Now, if you are a fan of events, then you know sometimes events are really hard to gauge how to read. Like, where do you go from part 1 to part 2, because they don't tell you on the book. There's, follow this book, go from Amazing Spider-Man to Venom. Just like this one here, it's kind of left open. So what they do is they give you like a reading guide. You can go from Amazing Spider-Man 15 to Dark Web Miss Marvel, or go directly to Amazing Spider-Man 16, move over to Venom. It can get a little confusing, but I love this graph. I think it's wonderful. And I think this right here is a good reading experience because you get to see what the X-Men are doing when Spider-Man is fighting Venom. Alright, so what is Dark Web? If you like X-Men Inferno, you are going to love this. No, wait, other way around. If you love X-Men Inferno, you may like this. It is goofy, ridiculous fun. It's a crossover between the X-Men and Spider-Man that for some reason needed to happen, even though nobody saw this coming. At least, I mean, me? What the hell? So, you see this mailbox attacking an old man here in New York City. And we've seen that before. This is John Romita Jr. drawing this. Wells writing the story. And as it turns out, the people behind this demonic mailbox are Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, and Ben Reilly, now known as Chasm instead of Scarlet Spider, or Scarlet Spider-Man. How he became that, well, that can be found in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man Beyond. So you can read that to find out. How Maddie becomes evil, or how she's back from the dead, that can be found in the pages of Hellions, and there's still a lot left open to, wait, why is she doing this? But anyway. So we kick it off with the first issue. We have Madeline Pryor approaching Ben Reilly, and she's like, look, we're both clones. We've been thrown aside. Let's join forces and kick the crap out of the X-Men and Spider-Man and take our place, and we'll become the real Madeline Pryor and Ben Reilly, or I guess Peter Parker and Jean Grey. And during this time, a lot of changes have happened too in the world of Spider-Man, like his relations with some of the characters. They're also getting Venom's help. Remember when I said, I might be talking a little bit of spoilers here, but they're the ones that approach Venom to help him get reunited with Dylan, as long as he helps them and destroy Spider-Man. So it is the whole city coming to life. We have some new key players in here, like the Gold Goblin. We have Hallows Eve right there. And yes, anytime a baby carrot is trying to eat a baby, you know that it's Inferno happening all over again. Now, how is this mapped? Even though they give you a suggested reading order, they put all the issues together of the series. So Spider-Man, for example, all of Spider-Man 15 through 18 is collected like this. It's Spider-Man 15 through 18. There is no X-Men one shot in between, or the miniseries one in between issues 15 and 16. There's no Miss Marvel #1 in between issues 17 and 18. So it's kind of a bummer because I was hoping that it would be in a good reading order. And not that this is a horrible reading order, but I kind of wanted to see what was going on with the X-Men since they showed up in the one shot and you don't get to find out until after reading Venom. So yeah, Venom is together here, 2 issues of him fighting Spider-Man and also teaming up with Hallows Eve. Miss Marvel showing up. Now, I do appreciate that Miss Marvel is right beside Venom, but the X-Men stories are all the way in the back, which, of course, they play a huge part in this. If we're talking about Madeline Pryor and an Inferno coming to New York City, how did... anyway... So just be prepared, even though you have a suggested reading order, that the story or the series are still bunched together. How I think that's all I wanted to talk about. I don't want to go into spoiler territory as to what happens or how anything gets resolved, who ends up winning, what the resolution of any of this will be. So I'm going to go, look at that. There's some great artwork in here, I will say that. But let me look all the way in the back here at some of the extras, not all of them. So here we have some of the variant covers, some in splash pages, some in thumbnail pages. Some of them are homages to classic covers. And then I didn't realize this, that the main Dark Web series has connecting covers. Very cool. This book retails for $34.99. and it has 344 pages. No word yet if this is going to be in an oversized hardcover somewhere, or if it's going to be in a Zeb Wells omnibus collection. Nothing yet. All we know is that there's a trade paperback. Man, we're not done talking about Spider Folk. We just went through Venom and then Dark Web, and now we are kicking off the modern epic collection with Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider. So this is the way that it looks right here in the back of the book. So it looks like the Marvel Epic line. As a matter of fact, here's what it looks like when I put it with other Epic collections. Of course, I'm using Avengers as an example, but the line right there in the middle. The picture at the bottom, though, is in color instead of having just one tone, which I guess it makes these modern Epic collections stand out. But yeah, I love that the design looks like the other Epic lines. That's wonderful. So, Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider. Collecting Edge of Spider-Verse volume, or number 2, which is, of course, her first appearance. And then you have Spider-Gwen 1 through 5, the 5-issue series that kind of kicked it off. And then the ongoing series, issues 1 through 8 collected in here. But you have the entire Spider-Women crossover. So you have Spider-Woman Alpha in here, Silk 7 through 8, Spider-Woman 6 and 7, and then Spider-Woman Omega. This book has 480 pages and retails for $44.99. So here we are in Earth 65, where we meet this world's Spider-Woman. And that is, of course, Gwen Stacy. Now, her story is a little bit different than that of Peter Parker's of Earth 616. She's in a band, and her lesson in with great power comes great responsibility came from another tragic accident that I won't get into. And she does have close relationship with her father. She has very similar villains. You have the Punisher taking a role of now a detective. You have Matt Murdock, who's kind of like a mercenary for hire, more like Bullseye. She does fight similar characters to that of Peter Parker, like the Vulture and the Lizard. And even though it takes place on Earth 65, she can travel to Earth 616. As a matter of fact, this is where she comes for some mentorship from Jessica Drew, who I don't think she really sees like a mom, even though Jessica's about to have a baby during this particular era. But she sees more like an older sister. Now, she does have her own Captain America. She does have her own, there they are, bonding. So it's beautiful. I love it. Whenever she needs help or some kind of guidance, she goes to Jessica. She does have her own Green Goblin, which has a little bit of a change. And there he is right there in his Goblin glider. But this was such a fresh take on the whole mythos of Spider-Man, which I know sounds ridiculous, right? Because we've had Miles Morales, we've had Ultimate Spider-Man, so why do we need another Spider character? I don't know, because it worked. It really clicked with me. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was fun. I shared it with my oldest daughter when I got the first trade paperback many years ago, and she really enjoyed it, and we bonded over that. So if you're looking for somebody, or to get something for somebody that enjoys manga and anime, this really feels like one of those type of stories. Here's the crossover right here. Please don't judge the art in this. This is not one of my favorite pieces of art right here in this particular collection. It's just the alpha issue right here. But yeah, this one for sure. If you have family members, especially young kids that are into anime, manga, and you're trying to get them into your world of comics, I think this is such a good segue to do that. That's why this one here, and because I had a lot of fun with it, gets the Near Mint Condition seal of approval this week, or stamp of approval, whatever we're calling it. We'll call it a seal. We'll call it a seal. Yes, but even the crossover here is interesting because she's teaming up with Silk, and she's teaming up with Spider-Woman Jessica Drew. And they don't really get along. They're not the best of friends, except for her relationship with Jessica. But there's a couple of twists and turns as to who exactly is behind everything, which I thought was okay. I did not see that coming, so I really enjoyed it. Oh yeah, her Felicia Hardy also has a big, different story too in here, which I don't want to spoil. It's just to be a lot of fun, and if you don't have to be familiar with Spider-Man or Peter Parker's comic to really enjoy this one. Sure, you're going to see a lot of similarities if you're familiar with that story, But if you're brand new to Spider-Man, you just want to check out a really fun book that features some really fun characters, then this is the one for you. This book, again, retails for $45 or $44.99, and it has 480 pages. Let's look at the back here for some extras. We got the script, 2 panels right here. I suggest reading that after the main issues, or at least the Epic Collection. Here's some character profiles. Definitely read these after you read the collection, because it might spoil who some of these characters are. And then some of the variant covers. Now, this has been available before in trade paperback, oversized hardcover, Marvel Digest size, and in omnibus format. But for the first time, kicking off your modern Epic Collection line is Spider-GWEN, Ghost Spider, Edge of Spider-Verse. What a title. I love that right there. The title's right here. Last but certainly not least, and the one that almost got the seal of approval, mainly because I could just finally get rid of this old trade, and that is Avengers West Coast Epic Collection, California Screaming. That's right, California Screaming, not dreaming. Here's what the spine looks like, which you saw that earlier, but the back of the book. Volume 6, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Avengers West Coast is one of those lines that have been released in chronological order, where we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we've had 6. So here we are with the latest Epic Collection of the West Coast Avengers, or what started as West Coast Avengers, but Avengers West Coast. Roy Thomas has come back with his lovely wife, Dan Thomas. You have one of my favorite pencilers, very underrated, Paul Ryan, who passed away a few years back, and Danny Bulanati doing the inks right here. So it kicks off with issue number 65 of Avengers West Coast. And it's Simon, praying over his brother's grave, who's the Grim Reaper, and Grim Reaper gets out of this grave, and you're like, what? That's convenient, but Simon already left. That's Wonder Man, by the way. We'll talk a little bit about these characters here in a bit. So this collects Avengers West Coast 65 through 82 and annual number 6. But who's woken him up? Oh, it's Necra, and she's like, look, I just got you back from the grave. All you need to do is absorb some life force. And look, there's this guy that's coming over here. Why don't you kill him and take his life source? Instead, he ends up killing her. And he's like, nobody tells me what to do. I'm my own man now. And this begins the whole Reaper and Robot event, which I think is like 4 or 5 issues right here. You still have John Walker and Clint Barton not getting along. And that's about to come to a big freaking storyline here. Like, it's about to come full force when both of them get into this huge fight. And now Ultron steps into this story. So this is where Ultron and the Reaper team up to take out the Avengers for the last time. And during this particular time, you do have Scott Lang becoming a member, even though he doesn't really go out into the field. You have U.S. Agent, Iron Man, Wasp, Tigra, Quicksilver, and Wonder Man. And of course, Hawkeye right there. And yeah, the first part, it's the cheerleader, by the way, is not a member of the Avengers West Coast. She just happens to be in this parade where Ultron has a plan to bring these robots to life and start attacking them. This is the fight between Hawkeye that I was talking about and U.S. Agent, because they've just been at each other's throat. You also have Mockingbird through here. There's another character that ends up joining the team, and that is that character right there of... Oh, wait, I think you all missed it probably. There she is, Julia Carpenter, Spider-Woman, the second Spider-Woman that appeared during Secret Wars, and then the Living Lightning plays a big part in this and ends up joining the team. Now, while you do have Paul Ryan drawing the first third of the issues, you have Dave Ross come in, and I remember really enjoying Dave Ross when I was younger. And it's really weird because it's not until I started rereading some of these a few years back, whenever I did the reading order of Avengers, that I noticed that this is, by the way, getting replaced, because this collects issues 58 through 59, which is already some collected in the previous Epic collection, and then also issues 63 to 75. But what I was going to say is that what I noticed when rereading the Avengers West Coast is that Dave Ross has a little bit of a flair of Gene Colan. This is not a good example. And it might just be me, but sometimes like his artwork has a very Gene Colan feel to it. This is some of his stuff right here. And it really depends on the inker. I will say some of the scans on mainly the covers are a little bit rough. Like, I'm not sure if you can tell right here, but like on the ground, depending on the tones, the color tones they're using, They don't look that great. I think there's like 4 or 5 that I remember, but 75 being one of the big issues between Thundra and Archon using the Fantastic Four and the Avengers to fight each other. That one stood out. And then you have, yeah, this one here too. You can see by the rubble right there. The annual number 6, which is part of the Subterranean Wars right there. And also has a really good Living Lightning story. And then you have the, what is this? The monster storyline towards the back here, which is the final story before we get to the big crossover. You have the return of Hangman. There's this awesome picture of Hangman. I've always loved it. I remember when I was a kid, I was trying to draw it. Hangman holding U.S. Agent and Simon. I think it's towards the end of one of the issues. Maybe it's this one right here. See, they're standing on rubble. Okay, so this is the beginning. Maybe it's this issue right here. I just thought it was such a badass picture. And I'm not even the biggest Hangman fan. Yeah, that one right there. I remember trying to draw that as a kid. I was like, oh, that's so cool. He's not even that cool of a character. But anyway, all of this then becomes a big crossover with the Avengers and Iron Man and Wonder Man and who else? Thor. And that is, of course, Operation Galactic Storm. Now, you're only going to get the Avengers West Coast parts in here, because they play a big role, but they don't play a major role. Well, some of the characters do. But so they give you a quick synopsis as to what's happened in the previous chapter, so you can go to chapter 9 here. And it was a long crossover. And they did that for every issue. So last chapter was chapter 9, then you go into chapter 16, so they give you a recap as to what happened in chapters 10 through 15. And it's a big fight between the Shi'ar and the Kree Empire. And I do love the fact that they have an ad here to tell you exactly where you can get the whole story, and that is in the Epic Collection, Operation Galactic Storm. There's a couple trade paperback covers back here. Marvel Swimsuit Edition, baby! When are we going to get that omnibus? Look at all that eye candy. Some pinups. It's a Marvel Fanfare pinup. Norm Brayfogle. Man, that's... Is that John Walker crying? Huh. I don't think I've ever seen that one. And Marvel Year in 1. This stuff has not been available. Not everything, right? I mean, it's been some of it has been available in trade paperback, but it's not been available in oversized hardcover, not in omnibus format. Who knows? Maybe one day. And then an original cover right here from Paul Ryan and Danny Bulanadi, and that's from issue 65. The book retails for $49.99, and it has 512 pages. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these collections. Let me know in the comments down below which books you're going to get in this format, which books you're hoping they get an omnibus format, or you hoping Dark Web gets an oversized hardcover format with a pretty good reading order or a proper reading order. Are you hoping that one day we'll get the Avengers West Coast, that era of Avengers West Coast in omnibus format? Or if you get the epics, and are you going to kickstart your modern epic collection? This was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check out our Patreon. It's an amazing way to support the channel if you can do so. And thank you to our existing patrons. And more importantly, everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.